Hi, everyone, and welcome to Adoption Collection. I'm Allison, and today we have Alice and Eliot here to share about their adoption story. How are you
Hello.
both
Hi.
doing?
We're all right.
Surviving. We were adopted at birth.
We're
We were like, our adoptive parents had a weekend to name us. Very quick.
they were initially going to adopt one child, but then she got the call from the agency, and they're like, "Okay, so we have twins. I know you were looking for one kid, but what about twins?" And my mom was like, "Oh, I'll have to ask Mike."
And then she found out that we were born on her birthday.
And she was like, "Oh, well,
She was
now I
like,
have to have
We're
them."
taking them.
That's so amazing.
So she got a bonus kid.
Yeah.
And so,
Buy one, get one free.
exactly, we were BOGO.
Yeah. And when we were born, she asked, or when she went to like take us, she asked like, "Oh, do they have any siblings? Is there like any other kids in the foster system we can have?" And they told her that we have an older brother, but they were not legally allowed to tell her anything else. But that didn't stop her from trying.
And so we got to find out that he was actually also adopted out of the foster system and was placed with a foster family that lived in the same state as us. They lived a couple miles away.
Yeah. So in second grade, we got to meet our brother.
And that was pretty cool.
That was pretty awesome.
I love
His
that.
name was,
Backup story though.
yes.
The cutest thing that's ever happened in our lives. I wasn't eating enough in the hospital. And so our dad came in one day and he was like, "Hey, I heard you're not eating enough. So I stopped at Friendly's and got you a Fribble," which is like their really thick milkshakes. Obviously, it was just formula, but he told me it was a Fribble, and I ate that sucker right down and got to go home that day,
So that's,
even though they had been home.
so that's the story of how I finally got my twins home. And so every year for our birthday, we have Fribbles. And it's good content.
It's pretty great.
That's so sweet. I like that you guys kind of created your own tradition.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one of our favorite stories. But yeah, so in second grade, we found out about a brother. And then, so we see him a few times. And then in eighth grade, our parents sat us down and they were like, "Okay, we have a story for you."
And we were like, "Who has died?"
We were like so scared. But what happened was our brother, Stanley, his mom was at Big Y.
Or no, it was Walmart.
Was it Walmart?
It was
Walmart.
at Walmart.
It was at Walmart. And was checking out, and the cashier recognized the name on her card and said, "Are you Stanley's mom?"
And she was,
I'm his birth mom. Just the cashier randomly at Walmart was our birth mom.
And that was about 2 weeks before she was about to move out of the state. So if it hadn't happened, then it never would have happened. But just all out of sudden, we got to, because it was a closed adoption, so none of us would have found out about her until we were 18. And at that point, she probably wasn't going to leave a forwarding address with the agency. So like it would have been a completely missed connection. But no, she ran into her working at the Walmart. And now we know who our birth mom is.
We're Facebook friends.
Yeah.
And that's also when we found out that we have a little brother who we got to meet, which was awesome. And then when we were juniors in high school, they sat us down again. And at this point, it was like a joke. We're like, "Okay, who's the new sibling?" And they go, "How did you know?" It turns out that we have an older sister named Crystal from our father's side. And we also found out that our birth father was murdered by the police in the wake of Hurricane Katrina.
So that was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah.
It's not a fun story, but like we're fine telling it.
There are like articles about it and stuff if you look it up. There was a whole rash of sort of like extrajudicial police murders after Hurricane Katrina, specifically on the homeless population. And so there's like a whole rash of cover-ups that followed it as well. So there are articles.
It's a sloppy cover-up. If you read any of the reports on it, it's pretty blatant what happened. But yeah, so we found that out. And then I was really interested to know more about my biological past. And so when I was a freshman in college, I took one of those ancestry spit in a tube and get your genetics. And a fun feature that they don't super advertise is that if you're an adopted kid and there's someone on the site who shares your genetics, they email you and say, hey, we found someone you're related to. So we actually found some of our birth father's family. And when our birth mother got pregnant with us, she wasn't like close with our birth father and they had lost touch. So she put an ad in the newspaper saying, hey, Matt, wherever you are, I'm pregnant, and got no response. So he had no idea that we existed until 6 months before he died. So when I got these emails that I had family, I got messages from them saying, hey, who are you? And I was like, well, these are my birth parents' names. These are my adoptive parents' names. Do you know them? And they're like, Matt doesn't have kids. They just had no idea we existed. And
so they email both parties saying you have a close relative?
Yeah, that's what they do. When they figure out that there's it's really cool if you're adopted. You find new stuff.
You get bonus family.
Yeah,
because we definitely
a really
do
interesting
already
way to connect.
We definitely do already have like a very like close relationship with our adoptive family. We have like a big,
absolutely.
loving Irish family, and then on our mom's side, we've got the Italian family, and so it's a very family first culture, and like we're all about the family that we do have. But the idea that
we've never been like made to feel like excluded or other. We're lucky in that sense, so I hear.
But it's so to find out that we have like extra bonus family out there is definitely it's weird. It's like we thought all this time that it was just me and her in the world, and we were just sort of we looked out for each other, but now there's more of us. And so it's interesting. We get to expand that web a little bit more.
So have you met any of your bonus family, or is it just strictly emails?
We met up with Stanley, our older brother, a few times. Went from like second grade until he went into the Air Force. But he's kind of lost touch with, from what I hear, even most of his foster family. So we haven't heard from him in a decade.
Okay.
And then our little brother, we're Facebook friends with.
Yeah, he keeps inviting us down to meet him. And I'm like, I will as soon as the virus calms down, my guy. I'll be down there. We're going to have some sibling solidarity.
Yeah.
And that's fun. And then our older sister, Crystal, I don't think she even knows we exist.
And that's okay. If everybody's got their own row to hoe.
Yeah. If she were to reach out to you, like she somehow found out that, you guys were her sister, like, would you want to meet her? Or
I definitely would.
Yeah.
I'm personally just trying to take care of me, and I also have 5 birds. So I'm like, I have enough on my plate. I'll add bonus people and birds when I have the time. But right now it's just me, my 5 birds, and my sister. That's the priority. I
think that makes sense. And even though, you guys are twins, I like the fact that you have different responses on it. It's not, 100% we're a package deal, and if one wants to do it, then we both do, or if one doesn't, then we both don't. I like that, you're able to have your own unique opinions about this.
As twins, we really like to reinforce our individuality, because although we do have some of the same interests, we're both artsy people. We both did theater and choir in high school. We danced together. I'm an actor now. They're a makeup artist.
But we still have
But we're still very, very individual people. And we take great pride in reminding people of that. I mean, the hair.
Yeah. I mean, you both rock your hairstyles, but
thank you.
How was it for you because you said you met your birth mother right before she moved. How was it for you? But to be completely blindsided, not expecting that at all, being raised your whole life, not knowing exactly who this woman was, and then how did you go about that?
So we knew very little information about them before we met them. We were told that Matt had blonde hair and was very funny, and that's really all we knew about him. And then about Violet, we kind of didn't have
a picture of Violet.
Yeah.
One picture of her from when she was pregnant with us. And so we kind of knew how she looked.
But like very vaguely. And so then we actually met her in real life, and it's like, wow, okay, cool. And like the first thing that she said to us was that it was the most difficult decision in the world.
Yeah.
And that like, you know, she didn't want to. But like, you know, she had already had one child that had been put in foster care, and she didn't want to give up other ones, but she wanted us to have the best life that we possibly could. And so I personally am incredibly grateful that she made that decision, whether or not it was really her own decision, but she really took it with a lot of grace. And, you know, also as someone who was a little bit younger at like when I met her and didn't really fully understand the gravity of it, like, you know, she said it in a way that like my little baby brain could comprehend and didn't make me feel weird about it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. For me, it was very weird because I like watching TV and stuff, looking for how, because that's like kind of how you get your weird social responses as a kid, looking to see myself as an adopted kid represented on screen and using that to help me figure out how the hell to react to this was bad.
Because there aren't really a ton of great examples of like adopted kids. Like it's always like, oh, you find out when you're older and it's this huge betrayal, but we had known we were adopted since before we could even say the word adopted.
And then also my least favorite representation of adopted children, that TV show The Fosters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that show because I couldn't watch it because every single kid on that show portrays the adopted experience as like, I'm broken, so I was thrown away. And it has this really, really harmful depiction of adopted kids. None of them are just humans who happen to be adopted.
I think it's interesting that you said that just about, you know, adoption in the media, because when I was younger, everything I saw about adoption, it was, okay, it was closed adoption on your 18th birthday. This is, you know, when you find out. And it was always so destructive to the child. And then having watched The Fosters, I can understand that. So for me, being a birth mom, it's really different because my son has known, like you, that he was adopted since birth. And he doesn't have a negative connotation towards the word adoption. If people say like, oh, you know, you don't really look like your dad. And he's like, oh, well, I was adopted. And it's just something to say. But I have noticed now, having, you know, placed my son, that there isn't a lot of positive adoption in media. And I would really like that to change. And so this is part of why I'm doing this whole web series. But it would be nice if we could get some shows that did show a positive light on adoption and show that you guys are real people and you don't have to have broken backstories.
Adopted families are families.
Yeah.
We're just people who have extra bonus people in our lives.
Yeah. We're not like a sad excuse for real kids.
And we're not like, you know, some last ditch option. Because I know also like with our parents particularly, they adopted because they weren't able to have kids of their own. But like I personally, as a non-binary person, don't want to go through pregnancy. That's going to do a lot of unfun things to my body that I don't want to think about. And so adoption is actually my first priority. And I think also just to pay it forward, if I were ever to have a kid, I'd want to adopt a kid because I got adopted.
And to quote The Room, it's really a tragedy how many kids out there don't have parents.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many kids who, like, deserve a home.
And to feel loved.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want to be able to pay for the unconditional love that I was given.
I completely appreciate that. And I know a lot of other people who have been adopted, and that's their first choice, is they want to adopt because they know, you know, just like you guys, that there are kids out there that want to be loved. So
yeah. And adopted kids are the coolest. We're an example.
Exactly.
My parents picked me. Can you say that?
So how was it for your parents when you met your birth mom?
They were very cautious about it. They very much wanted like us to be able to set the tone and be as much as we were comfortable about it. I personally was super blasé about it when it happened. You we're a little bit.
I've been a drama queen since before I could speak.
So
So I was like, I'm meeting my mother. Ugh. Like, but I was like, what, 12, 13? So I was like this tiny kid with like a little crappy brunette bob. I was like, oh, it was great.
But she was very much like, she was very into it. She was very, she was excited and intimidated by the experience, I think is the way to say it. You can also probably hear my birds. I've got 3 budgies, an elderly cockatiel, and a sun conure who thinks that this interview is about him and is very upset that he's locked in his cage right now.
I mean, you can always bring him out.
All right, it's Paprika time.
God.
She hates him. One moment. My 6-year-old son conure. His name is Paprika, and he's a baby.
Oh,
It's okay. He's on my shoulder now, so he's not going to go for you.
I
He
love
likes
the beautiful colors.
Yeah, no, they're the
bright
most
boy.
gorgeous birds in the world. They're also the most commonly rehomed birds because they're the
Loudest
birds,
for their size.
as you can hear. But he's super duper protective of me, just like I'm super duper protective of her. So it's a chain.
Yeah.
Good. As long as you protect each other, that's what you need.
Yeah,
Put
everybody
it together.
And I was playing with one of his feathers earlier, but he's in the middle of a molt, so he's shedding everywhere.
Found a feather in my tub last night.
Oh.
Bird adoption, I feel like, is also, I relate that to my adopted experience as well, because he does have the intelligence of about a 1 to 2 year old child. And they're a commitment a lot like adopting a child. Because
How long do they live?
They live up to 35 years.
Wow.
So he's going to be a part of my life for a really long time. You want to tell the story about the little wintertime surprise box?
Oh, yeah. So our mom, our adopted mom, is really, really, really into like
superstition. She's very spiritual.
Yeah, she's very religious. She believes that like the angels send us signs and stuff. And when was it as an engagement present?
Yeah,
as a wedding present.
Yeah,
as a wedding present, someone on our adoptive father's side of the family gave her this little figurine called Winter Surprise. And it's this little present box with 2 babies in it. And one is a brunette and one is a blonde.
And they both have blue eyes.
We were born in January. And my natural hair color is light brunette and their natural hair color is blonde. And we both have blue eyes.
And the one there's one that's slightly further into the box that came out second. And that's the blonde one. And I came out second when we were born.
I'm 10 minutes older.
So it was...
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So she always says that like it's fate, it's meant to be.
We were meant to be a family. Paprika's hiding behind my head. Are you being shy, bud?
I think that's amazing though.
Yeah.
I mean, just even something, whether you believe in superstition or not, obviously your family does.
Yeah.
But I just think that's something fun to tie together. And that's
a
really fun story.
There's some really fun coincidences.
Yeah.
And then there's some just bizarre coincidences. Like our mom, when we were going into high school, she demanded that we get checked for thyroid. Like the doctor was like, it's really not necessary. Stuff like this doesn't affect them till they're older. They have no symptoms. But she was like, no, I went through that in high school and it was undiagnosed and it was terrible and I don't want them to go through that. So both of us were checked and we both have it.
And she actually we have the opposite condition. She has an overactive thyroid and I have an underactive thyroid. So it's like she stole my thyroid gland.
I also stole your birthmark.
Yeah.
We both have this weird little mark on our arms and mine is darker. And it's my second birthmark. They only have like half a birthmark. So I stole it.
She steals everything. I can't believe it. At least you won't steal my bird.
Never.
She hates him. It's okay though.
Yeah. As long as you love him, that's okay.
So he's a Velcro baby.
When you guys were growing up, was it weird for you knowing that you were adopted whereas other kids weren't?
It was more of like a fun fact about like the same way you whip out your zodiac sign. Like that's kind of the way I'd felt about it. I was just like, it's a fun party effect, but it doesn't really affect me in any way at all because I consider my parents who raised me, my adoptive parents, to be my parents, and I have a birth mom and bonus family, but I have a family first and foremost. And having an adoptive twin, like I'm so glad we did. Yeah, I know. Yeah, can you stop being a beepus for like 30 seconds, my dude? Thank you. But it was like having a built-in best friend. So I have a built-in best friend and I have family, but it didn't really affect me a ton. But what was your
For
feeling
me,
on it?
it was mostly like funny because it was never like this big adoption kind of thing with us. It was just, you're adopted.
Go back home.
You are. And so it's mostly just really funny when people tell me how much I look like my dad. One of the funniest things that ever happened to me with a stranger was my adoptive parents and I were going to tour colleges, and we stopped at this Dunkin' Donuts on the way, and the cashier, just looking at the three of us standing there, goes, "Does anyone ever tell you how much you look like your daddy?" And we laughed way harder than she probably thought we should have because she didn't know I was adopted. So they're like a bunch of little small stories like that where people are like, "Oh my God, you look just like your dad." We look nothing alike. What's funny though is I do kind of look like our birth dad. There's this, when we were small, our neighbor's a painter, and he painted portraits of us when we were like, what, 8?
Very small. You were still playing harp at the time.
I was a harpist for 10 years. And it's like a picture of me when I'm playing harp and I'm like looking down, and I still had my light brown hair. And when we were juniors and got this picture of our birth father, I was like, holy shit.
Those two pictures look really, really similar.
That's crazy. And it was just really wild.
It's also interesting because I feel like a lot of people, when they look at like their family and stuff, they sort of, you can be like, oh, like, I'm going to get like the jowls like my grandma, or like, the sort of faces that you're going to grow into. But with us, it's like we have our parents, but they don't really look like us. And so, we don't really have
mystery surprise.
Yeah, it's a fun mystery surprise. I don't know what to be insecure about.
I guess that can be helpful.
Yeah. It's a fun bonus.
Every turn to surprise.
There was a group when we were younger of people who were adopted from the same agency that we were, that we would all like meet up once a year, and like, the parents would commiserate like, the unique difficulties of having adopted their kids. And we were all just kind of kids, so we would just mess around and do kid stuff and like throw water balloons at each other, because that, as one does.
Side effect of that. So when we were kids, do you remember the movie Meet the Robinsons?
My last name is Robinson, so yes.
Hey, it was that Disney movie about an adopted kid.
Yeah.
And so when it came out, I was like, oh my God, I have to see this movie. And like all my friends were seeing it, and they're like, my non-adopted friends were seeing it. And I was like, oh my God, I have to see this movie. But there was a parent in that group who saw the movie with their kid and decided that it had a negative emotional impact on their kid, because for most of the movie, the kid thinks that his mom put him up for adoption because she didn't want him or she didn't care about him. But the whole point of the movie is that he figures out, no, she actually put me up for adoption because she loves me and wants me to have my best shot, and she couldn't give that to me. And so like, it's actually a really beautiful message to the movie. But because this one parent misunderstood it, they sent this angry mass email to all the other adoptive parents. And to protect me from possible emotional trauma, my mom didn't let me see the movie when I was a kid.
So you threw the biggest tantrum.
I threw a huge fit. But then when I was older, I watched it with my best friend for the first time and cried my eyes out. And so that was like a weird side effect of having that support group. It was like, and they're all trying their best. It was like no one had bad intentions at all. It was all just to protect us.
Right.
But they misunderstood the movie, and they didn't have the same point of view going into it.
Yeah.
And so they couldn't appreciate it.
It was a bit ham-fisted, IMO.
It was a little ham-fisted.
But like, rep is rep.
Rep is rep.
I think also it's important to understand that not every adoption story is the same. So what someone else might feel, you won't feel. And that's just something that I've gotten from being able to interview all of these people, is I've met with a lot of adoptees, and not one single person has had the same experience, whether it's positive or negative. Everyone has a different story. You can all have the same story on paper, but the emotional aspect is so different.
Absolutely.
It's a range.
And, the experiences that stick with you that are completely different too. Like, she was very, very nervy about when we first met our siblings and stuff, whereas I was just like, new friend, because I have the emotional needs of a golden retriever.
is there anything that you would want to say to kids that, might be having some trouble being adopted, or anything that maybe you've realized in your life that's helped you? I know you guys are pretty open and bonus people.
I think the main thing that I've learned about being adopted is that family absolutely is who you pick. It's not blood, it's the people who love you. Whether it's because your adoptive family is cool and you love them and that's who you click with, or whether it's the family that you've made yourself out of your friends and the people you've met in your life, or if it's your blood family because you just happen to click with them. It's all family. It all matters. It's who you want to be show up at your birthday party, not who actually does.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Found family has been a huge thing for me, both with my adoptive family and the friends that I've made along the way who are like parental figures or grandparent figures or sibling figures.
You get family whether you like it or not, but you can make your own.
Also, the phrase blood is thicker than water is actually one of the most famous misquotes. The actual quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So
I feel like that accurately does our experience.
Yeah. And it's not the same for everyone, but you can make the covenant with your blood. But the point is that it's a choice. You have a choice who has your back.
Love people on purpose.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. You got to love them on purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for everybody.
Absolutely.
Just because even, with me, just because my parents are my blood doesn't mean that I'm not just as close with other people. It's
exactly.
You choose who you want to be around.
And also, adopted kids are cool. We're living proof. Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. I mean, you guys seem amazing, so.
We can do anything.
You can do anything you set your mind to.
I'm not about to be in a performance in Times Square. Like, you can really do anything.
Do what you set your mind to, kids. Don't let your memes be dreams.
Yeah. That's a good quote. I haven't heard it before. I like that.
No. Meme stealer.
That's what I'm about.
That's okay.
My humor's derivative, but so is everything.
Good.
It's all about the spin you put on it.
That's true. I used to get all the time. It's weird. Okay, one thing. Yeah. It's weird being adopted and being fraternal twins because so I actually, for my, in sophomore year at my college, you have to write a play to like actually get into the theater program. And so I wrote this play about being adopted and the stupid questions people ask you. And one question that people actually ask us when I say I have a twin and I'm adopted, are you related by blood?
Because
people think that we're not actually twins, that they just went to the like adoption agency and were like, I'll take that one and I'm going to call them twins. Like,
I think people there's a lot of mystery about the adoption process to the general public. People don't know how it works. They don't know, like, you can adopt it through an agency, you can foster, there's all sorts of kinds of.
In high school, people thought we were just friends that called each other twins.
Because we liked each other a lot, which is not true because you hated me in high school. Why would you want to hang out with me?
But yeah, no, it's really weird having people be like, are you even related? If you're adopted, are you related to anyone? It's weird.
I'm sorry. I'm still in awe over that question, though.
Me too.
We're trying to figure out what
do you know how genetics work? I don't know.
Mystery. So yeah, it's an obtuse process. People have questions, they'll ask you randomly whether you want them to or not. And you just kind of live your life.
Yeah.
Are you both open to answering questions? I mean, obviously for this interview.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, people will ask them. So you may as well be friendly and make an opportunity to educate rather than alienate.
But if someone's a real jerk about it, I give a jerkish answer.
Yeah.
But if they're like chill about it,
to answer, you just Is there anything else that either of you would like to say?
I think we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I greatly appreciate it. It was nice to get your family dynamic because I've never spoken with twins before. So it's nice to see your different perspectives. All right. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.